This is the Sacred Site Podcast, based off of the documentary series of the same name, True Tales of Megalithic and Pyramid Hunting Game, Finding the Hidden Truth of Our Past with your host, Lewis.
Welcome back to Sacred Site Podcast, and that is the new intro, probably not the final intro. I'm experimenting with these intros. We'll see what it eventually becomes, something solid. I didn't like the intro of the first three shows. I just sort of slapped it together quickly, and that's kind of what you get for doing something quickly. But it is what it is, and welcome back. This is episode 4, and this is Pila's Pyramid part 4 as well. And if you did not know, I also host a podcast going on nearly 13 years, which is Chant It Down. So this is a side project I do where I talk about my expeditions to find megaliths and pyramids and that are new in the world. And this particular story takes place on the big island of Hawaii. So hopefully you've listened to the last 3 parts, because here we go with part 4. Before I get into it, hopefully you've seen Sacred Site, the documentary series. Season 1 is out now. And currently, since I've last talked to you, it is out on a few different streaming platforms. Number one, it's called Relay. Now, I never heard of it, but there's so many apps now. I don't blame you if you haven't heard of it, but it's on there, and you can totally see it there. You can see it on Stash Paranormal, which is on YouTube, chapters 1 and 2. So there's 2 chapters to season 1, and that is, we're talking about just a YouTube, and then it will be available. I don't know when. They don't tell me these things. Fossum is kind of like a Tubi. Fossum is a sort of a streaming service too, and Play Now Media and Stash TV. So eventually it'll be on all those, but for right now, you can for certainly find it on Relay, and you can find it on Stash Paranormal. I've gotten some decent response, and it's gonna get bigger, and this little show will also get bigger, because season 2 has the real meat and potatoes. Season 1, kind of like a pilot, kind of like showing you how we operate, showing you how we think, and then season 2, well, the discoveries just got a whole lot better. So anyway, this is back to Pila's Pyramid and Pila's Pyramid. Oh, and I apologize for last episode's sound was kind of low. This one should be much better. But Pila's Pyramid was the beginning of my it was the introduction to me finding hidden megaliths and pyramids in the world, things that the world does not know about, and trying to find new, where before I was going to places everybody else does. But this is upping the game, you could say. Okay, so here we go. When I was last talking to you, me and Zach Royer were on our expedition to try to find this peak. We had reassembled our efforts. We had gone to a vantage point after Seb had to leave. Seb had to go to a birthday party that day with his family. So we decided we had time left in the day, and we went to a viewpoint, found, we following Pila's book, we found the direction of where it should be. We see a pyramid-like peak, so we drove in the direction of the peak and hoped to find the closest route. There was macadamia nut farms, and then we took a road that I was familiar with before from my first rained out journey with Seb, actually, because, we after getting totally soaked, we decided to just drive around, but you couldn't see much anyway. So, but I was familiar with this road. So we crossed the stream and I could see up the mountain, and there it was, this pyramid shaped peak. And I was like, oh, cool. Well, it looks like a pyramid. And the road eventually led to a coffee farm. And at first we were like, should we drive in the coffee farm? I mean, it's private land, probably, and um, why not? The philosophy I've developed from doing this kind of work is ghosts till someone tells you otherwise. Because if I didn't, if I just chickened out of everything that um, said private property, or, just didn't look, like we should go, then we wouldn't have an adventure to tell. And sometimes you got to break the rules. Rules are there, ridiculous rules are there to be broken. Okay. You know, um, so we did. We're glad we did. We drove up a narrow paved road past coffee orchards, and there were some workers, but they didn't seem to give a shit at all. We're just, driving by, whatever. We drove to the top of the road, and we're at the top of like a cul-de-sac, and there was the pyramid peak in full view. It was pretty big. And I was taking a couple, I got out, taking a couple of photos, and a Hawaiian auntie came out of the coffee orchards holding a bowl of freshly picked coffee cherries. They're hand picking the beans. And we because now it's a little bit awkward. And I think Zach asked her if it was okay if we could be there and take photos. She didn't care at all. It's great that the workers just didn't care at all. It just felt good, right? So then again, that goes back to, again, um go for it. Don't worry, don't be afraid, just do it. Maybe that you can apply that anywhere in life. So I don't recall her name, but Zach called her Auntie Kailani. And I'm actually not sure if that's from memory, or maybe he did just make it up, or kind of just, um, add in, because I didn't honestly remember. I'm terrible with names when I meet someone new. But I think Zach asked her, do you know anything about this mountain? And she told us a Hawaiian legend, about a chief who, this is just coming from faint memory, was uh, planted a breadfruit tree on top, and then he was killed eventually by the people. They didn't like him, and he was killed on top of that mountain. The Hawaiians planted a breadfruit tree on top of him. I'm probably butchering the story a little bit, totally, probably, but she also said that some people think it's a buried pyramid. And I looked over at Zach, and both of our eyes lit up. This must be what we're searching for. And she was so nice and helpful, and even told us that there's a road that gets close to it. So we said, it's like she knew the magic of this trip. The UFOs, the synchronicities with the text messages we got from James Gillian, and just the whole thing. Yeah, it's like she came out and just knew she needed to talk to us. It was really interesting. But anyway, we said our goodbyes and took that road up that she said goes, close to it. It was a gravel road, and at one point we got to where the road washed out. We're like, okay, well, that's that's it. So we decided we can walk from here. And you've probably seen a bit of this in Sacred Site, the documentary. We get, we stop and get our gear on and get ready. And I filmed Zach talking. It was an exciting moment because, we were like, wow, this is what we've been here to see the whole time. And all that work we did, climbing around the mountain the day before, and, get kicked off private property. It was like, it was a real, kind of downer in a way. And then here we are. So as we walked up the road, we could see the similarities in Pila's description from the book. It was a It was an old logging road up high on a mountain. But the difference from the time period Pila had gone here versus us was there was no more sugarcane. Sugarcane has left Hawaii as an industry. If you didn't know, sugar stopped. Actually, the last production was in 2016 on Maui, and this stuff, left longer than that. So in this particular region of the Big Island, they replaced it with coffee and macadamia nuts. But there were remnants of sugarcane brambles here and there. You could still see that at one time sugarcane was grown in that area. So we were also on a logging road. And so that's a term you don't really hear in Hawaii. Logging is not really a thing, but there were old piles of logs everywhere, possibly sandalwood, but I could, I think it could be a type of rosewood, but these logs were old, so I can't really tell you what they were for. But it was a logging road up high. So here we fit all the descriptions of Pila's book, and we're like, well, we must be going the right direction. And so the road we were walking kept veering a different direction, and a smaller road looked like it went right toward the pyramid. So we figured, well, let's just go that way because it looks like it goes that way, because we can't really just keep following a meandering road and then it doesn't lead to it. So that's what we did. We decided to go that way. But once we got to the smaller road, we hear the noise of an idling quad, or we didn't know if it was a quad, motorcycle. It sounded like a quad though, right? And I'm sure you've seen this exact scene in Sacred Site. Now we're whispering. We're like, whoa, we're not gonna make any noise because there's people over there, and we don't know what these people are like, right? And then remember that we were given the text from James Gillian on the last episode I shared about the monk who had gone to the pyramid but was scared away by men with guns and dogs. So, were we walking to that same situation? That was the thought, and was there armed guards guarding this pyramid at all times? Is it really that protected? I mean, some little obscure place that we had to seriously search hard for, and yet there would be guards there, but of course our thoughts were that an armed guard or two might be just sitting on a quad, hanging out, waiting for anybody to come by and shooing them off. And I was thinking in my head, like, they probably already saw us driving up the road to the washout spot. And with these days, you don't know if you're passing a trail cam. You might be passing multiple trail cams. So I guess that would get these guys on guard. So it seemed very real. Like, there's no acting in Sacred Site. Like, we're not like saying, hey, let's make a dramatic situation, but it just happened to feel very much like that. So there was no acting. Zach tried to get a better view because we're creeping along. We want to get closer. And Zach got up on this pile of logs and try to get a better look, and then he fell off and it actually hurt himself, kind of bleeding and stuff. It was really kind of it wasn't bad, but it was like added to the scene, of just being kind of scared. So now we're like, okay, well, we'll proceed with caution. I mean, what were they really going to do? Shoot us on contact? I mean, there were no trespassing signs or anything like that. This is, I think, public state land. So it's not like you couldn't just go. So, I mean, why not? So we did. And we walked down this little road. It was very small and, overgrown too, right? And the sound of the vibrating quads were louder at each turn until we see not one quad, but two idling quads with nobody on them. Now that was interesting. That was like kind of like, oh, you mean, so where are these guys? Are they taking a break? Are they having a smoke break? Are they, you know, just kind of slacking on their job? Or who are these guys? You know, why aren't they on their quads? And that was even more concerning because where were the people? That was weird. So, well, you know, it was pretty kind of, yeah, it was very unnerving to see that, there's guys on the loose, possibly with guns, possibly with dogs. We don't know. So we walked past the quads and got to what was the beginning of a trail. This is where this little road ends and starts to become a trail. And then um, we see people coming down the trail. We're like, well, okay, we're just gonna face it, right? I mean, what can they do? So here are these two young local guys, hunters, come down the trail, and they were totally cool. They were more surprised to see us. They said they were looking for a pond, but didn't find it. And so, we asked them, if they knew about the mountain, which the auntie told us, which had a name that I can't recall now. And we didn't ask them if they knew it was a pyramid. You just don't come out immediately saying things like that unless you want people to think you're nuts. So we were like, you know, asking about the name of the mountain, and the mountain they knew with that name was about 5 miles away. So then that was kind of confusing. So which mountain was that auntie talking about? Well, she was talking about the Pyramid Mountain, but she might have got the names mixed up of the mountains around that area, because actually when I went back home later and investigated, that mountain that is the name she gave us is indeed a mountain about 5 miles away. So the one that she gave us was apparently wrong. So I don't know. Um, but they were nice, these guys, and we weren't on any forbidden land. They didn't care if we were there. It was like, oh, whew, we didn't have to worry about that. But thing we had to worry about, it was getting late, and I had an hour and a half drive to the airport to catch my flight back. And we knew there where the trail was, and we'd have to schedule a new journey up there. And this required more time off work for both of us and a date for me to fly back. But we're stuck for now, although we did go up the trail a little bit and just see that it's not much of a trail, and it's pretty easy to get lost. And so, um, anyway, we're going to have to call it a day. But one thing the auntie said that I should have said earlier, but I just remembered, is she said that also the pyramid mountain that we were looking at is in line with another pyramid that's underwater. And also, that one, she said, had been guarded before. That's interesting. So, well, to this day of this recording, I still haven't done that. Um, that is a scuba diving mission, I would say. The waters look pretty treacherous, so it's not like really you'd have to find a really good day for snorkeling there, and I just don't know. But she gave us a location, and so that's a mission yet to be done. But very interesting, the synchronicity of meeting the auntie that told us all this information. It's like she knew we were seeking this pyramid. And I before we left, I took some drone shots of the uh, pyramid mountain. I got closer to it, and it was kind of like, yeah, you get the drone closer and see some more angles. You're like, I don't know. Is that really, the front of it looks like a pyramid, but the rest of it kind of just sloped back. And I kind of don't think it was at that point in time. And I was wondering, well, I don't know. I guess the only way to find out is for us to climb it and see if we can find any stones, see if we can find any evidences of some kind of construction, that it's a man-made rather than nature made. So we need to go back. And so we're going to go back then the next time, and that'll be the next episode, part 5. But we're going to, check it out. But what a journey it had been, because it went through a lot of different synchronicities, and it went through a lot of different uh, uh, phases of like, discouraging and then encouraging. And then we're just kind of like, well, we got to go back because it's too hard. But we're going back to Pila's book. Pila would not have climbed it. He never did. He said he thought he was going to climb it, or he wanted to climb it, but it was getting late, so he turned back. Um, Hard to know what journey what he did. My theory is that Pila went through the coffee farm instead of that road that we took, the gravel road the auntie suggested. Um, my thoughts is that Pila walked through what was at one time sugarcane fields where the coffee is now, and went to the base of it. But this thing's massive. This thing is huge. Um, it if it if it is a pyramid, it's taller, I would say, than the Great Pyramid of Giza, and it or about the same size, but it was on a mountain ridge already. So someone built it, they built it on top of a mountain ridge. Yeah, I don't know. But it was it the pyramid.